Imagine a place where silence is broken only by the distant lowing of a cow, the crackle of firewood in the stove, or the unhurried wind blowing between snow-capped peaks. A place where survival doesn't depend on technology, but on the strength of one's hands, the unity of family and knowledge passed down through generations. This place exists, the salt mountains of the Carpathians in Ukraine. Here, farmers live in isolation, enduring relentless winters, nearly impassable roads, and a solitude few could withstand. Yet, they preserve centuries-old traditions, raise livestock on steep hillsides, and harvest from the land everything they need to survive. Today, we'll explore this life of beauty, silence, and resilience. The journey begins on paved roads that gradually turn into dirt trails. Cell phone signal fades away, dense forests swallow the paths, and suddenly small villages appear, hidden among the valleys. Dark wooden houses, log fences, and smoke rising from chimneys reveal that life here moves to a different rhythm. The Salt Mountains, part of the vast Carpathian range, hold one of the most isolated regions of Ukraine. The people who live here are known as Hutsuls, descendants of mountain shepherds and hunters. Their connection to the land runs deep. Every stone, every tree, every animal is part of a fragile balance that sustains their way of life. In these villages, modernity arrives slowly. Electricity is unreliable, the internet is almost non-existent, yet tradition remains untouched. The climate is the first great challenge. Long winters with snow piling over 3 feet high blanket the fields and pastures. Temperatures drop far below freezing. Their wind cuts across faces like a blade, and houses must be built from thick timber to withstand it. Summer, on the other hand, is short but intense. It's the season when work doubles. Planting potatoes, cabbage, and rye, preparing hay for the animals, repairing fences, and storing enough provisions to last through winter. Here, each season dictates not just the calendar, but survival itself. The landscapes are breathtaking. Rivers carve through narrow valleys, forests shelter deer and bears, and the mountain peaks seem to touch the sky. But this beauty comes at a cost: isolation. To reach hospitals, markets, or schools, many families must walk for hours just to get to the nearest road. The day begins early. Even before the sun rises, men and women are already on their feet. Their first stop is the stable, where they feed cows and goats, clean the stalls, and milk fresh dairy. That milk is quickly turned into cheese, butter, or homemade yogurt. Children learn from an early age there's no room for idleness. Boys help carry firewood, while girls tend to the chickens or assist in baking bread. And when time allows, they head to school, often walking along snow-covered trails. In the summer, the livestock is taken up to the high mountain pastures, known as poloninas. Shepherds spend weeks there in rustic huts, tending to the animals and producing the famous brinza cheese, a symbol of Hutsul culture. In the winter, everything returns to the valley and life retreats with the cold. Living in the Carpathians means learning to respect nature. The cold teaches resilience. The snow, which makes travel and farming difficult, also protects the forests and guarantees pure water for the villages when it melts. For the Hutsuls, the climate has never been just an obstacle. It is part of life's rhythm. They know each short summer must be seized to the fullest. They sow, harvest, and store as if every day were decisive, and in truth, it is. In the villages of the Salt Mountains, culture is not found in books. It lives in everyday gestures. Women gather to embroider towels and scarves with traditional Hutsul symbols passed down through generations. Each pattern, each thread of color carries meaning. Protection, prosperity, health. Men work with wood, building houses, fences, and even musical instruments, using techniques they learned from their fathers. The sound of the trombita, a long wooden horn, echoes through the valleys during festivals and ceremonies, reminding everyone of the strength of tradition. Architecture also speaks. Houses built from pine logs, covered with rustic shingles, stand strong against cold and time. Inside, the heart of the home is always the wood-burning stove, used both for cooking and for warmth. When we talk about food here, we're talking about survival. In the mountains, every dish is the result of collective effort. Banosh, Perhaps the most famous Hutsul meal is made from ground corn slowly cooked into a thick porridge, served with goat cheese, sour cream, and sometimes bits of bacon. Simple yet nourishing, it warms in winter and sustains in summer. Another staple is borscht, a beet soup made with cabbage and potatoes, fueling long days of labor in the fields. Preserves are also essential: pickled cucumbers, fermented cabbage, dried fruits, and mushrooms collected from the forests. These foods are not just sustenance, they are lifelines when the snow buries everything. For the Hutsuls, agriculture is more than survival. It is cultural identity. The Poloninas, the alpine pastures where livestock graze in summer, serve as gathering points for families. There, beyond tending animals, shepherds share stories, sing songs, and pass down ancestral knowledge. Every cheese made, every loaf of bread baked, every colorful embroidery strengthens the invisible bond that ties the villages together. If these practices were ever lost, it wouldn't just be a way of life disappearing. It would mean losing an essential part of Ukraine's cultural memory. Among the many families living in isolation in the Carpathians, one story stands out, that of the twins Yuri and Petro, residents of Dubov. They live in a simple cabin, almost falling apart with no real comforts, and yet they continue the routine inherited from their parents, tending to the goats, chopping firewood, cooking banosh on the old stove. Despite poverty and solitude, Yuri and Petro preserve an unbreakable bond of brotherhood. They share the little they have and endure the cold and isolation together. Their story spread because it symbolizes the Hutsul spirit, resilience in the face of adversity, unity in times of scarcity. But life there is not just poetry. Real dangers exist. Snowslides can cut off entire villages, roads become blocked, and outside supplies are impossible to reach. In those moments, only those who prepared well during the summer can survive. In the mountains, faith is as present as the cold. Small wooden churches, painted in bright colors, rise in the middle of the villages. There, families gather on religious dates to pray, sing, and share food. Christmas is a special ritual. Houses glow with candlelight, and the smell of freshly baked bread drifts through the dirt roads. Children dress in traditional costumes and go door to door, singing kolyadki, ancient Christmas carols. In return, they receive dried fruit, bread, or coins. It is more than a celebration. It is a reminder that even in the harshest cold, the community warms one another's hearts. At Easter, hand-painted eggs, the famous pisanki, decorate the tables. Each design carries symbols of protection and hope, and breaking the fast with them is an act that ties the village to the land and to their ancestors. During summer, when the fields bloom and the cattle climb to the Poloninas, local festivals take place. It is a time to dance to the sound of violins and bandoras, to wear hand-embroidered clothes, and to showcase the strength of the Hukul horse, a native Carpathian breed, hardy and, perfectly suited for mountain trails. These festivals are not just entertainment. They mark the agricultural cycle, giving thanks for the harvest and asking for protection for the coming winter. They are moments when the community reaffirms itself, and when the younger generations learn the importance of preserving every corner of this cultural heritage. The recent war in Ukraine has brought new challenges to these mountain farmers. Many young people have left for the cities or the front lines, leaving villages even more deserted. The already fragile roads have become even harder to maintain, and some fields have been abandoned. And yet, their resilience is striking. Even in the face of uncertainty, families continue milking goats, making cheese, and planting potatoes. For them, the land is more than sustenance. It is a bond with their national identity, a space where culture endures even in times of destruction. There is something fascinating about the way these farmers view nature. For them, rivers, trees, and mountains are not just resources, they are living beings. Old stories speak of guardian spirits who protect the forests and punish those who cut down trees without need. Some farmers still leave small offerings, like bread or milk, at the edge of the woods, asking for protection against illnesses in their herds. But it raises a question. In a world that grows more urban and fast-paced every day, how much of this ancestral wisdom still has the power to teach us? Life in the salt mountains offers no guarantees. A harsher winter can destroy stored harvests. A storm can sweep away the wooden bridges that connect villages. Without quick access to hospitals, even small illnesses can turn into serious threats. Yet each family finds strength in what they have: the solidarity of neighbors, the simple taste of homemade bread, the beauty of the sunset reflected in the snow. The silence that unsettles many visitors is for them a constant companion. Every simple gesture of these farmers is part of a legacy. Chopping wood, spinning wool, embroidering fabrics, or preparing banish are not just daily tasks. They are rituals of continuity. They connect new generations to the past and keep the Hutsul identity alive, even in the face of modernity and the hardships of war. In the villages, the elders are the guardians of memory. They tell stories by the fire, recalling legends of bears, wolves, and forest spirits. They teach which plants heal wounds, which roots become tea against the cold, and how to read nature's signs to predict the weather. Each elder is a living library, and every child who listens carries that knowledge forward. The Hutsuls are more than just a rural group. They embody one of the last ways of life fully integrated with Europe's mountain environment. While the modern world depends on technology to survive, they rely on inherited practices adapted to the rhythm of nature. That is why there are initiatives to recognize the Hutsul way of life as protected cultural heritage, not only to preserve traditions, but to remind the world that there are other ways to inhabit the planet, slower, more mindful, and deeply connected to the land. These farmers show us that true strength doesn't lie in dominating the environment, but in adapting to it. That beauty doesn't need luxury, but can be found in the warm bread coming out of a wood-fired oven, in the fresh cheese cured high in the mountains, or in the hand-woven wool blanket. In the end, living there is an act of courage, a daily challenge that unites past and present. And as long as someone is milking goats at dawn, lighting the wood stove in winter, or singing ancestral songs to the sound of the violin, the story of the Hutsuls will continue to echo through the mountains. And so, in the heart of Ukraine, among snow, silence, and resilience, these farmers keep reminding us that survival itself can also be a form of beauty. And so, our journey through the mountains of Ukraine comes to an end. If this story moved you, and you also believe that traditions like these deserve to be remembered and valued, then don't forget to support our work, share it with someone who would love to discover this reality, and subscribe to the channel Life on the Land. Here, every week, you'll discover how rural communities live in the most surprising corners of the world. Because in the end, the simple life is also the most extraordinary.